So, all right, so let's go ahead and get started. So the practice exam will have some the actual exam will have some like hints about regex, common regex features here, right? Like some of your common shortcuts for regex, as well as how to do the regex substitution, right? That's really one of the big things I care about, which is given a string, know how to do the regular expression substitution, which is to use, if we go back to your book, and then go to F12, right, so sorry, let's see, sorry, there we go. Substituting strings using the sub method. So you compile your regex, right, and then you do regex.sub, what you want to substitute, what you want to replace, what you want you to replace the regular expression with, and what you want, and the string you want to go through for that, right? So making sure that that works is kind of, so basically knowing how to do that is kind of important. So let's go ahead and see. So the questions that you'll get credit for, by the way, are more of the that I'll give you credit for an extra credit point for doing are these are starting from question 11 and up. Actually, no, question 3. So yeah, from here 9 and up. All right. For right now, I want to go over these are more basic questions. So the string character value Howl's moving castle is a valid string. Why isn't it a problem that the single quote in the word Howl's isn't escaped? So notice we've got Howl's moving castle. That's a string. It has a quotation mark. Normally you have to escape those marks. Why don't we have to escape? Yes.
Because the limiters are double quotation marks.
Right, because we've got double quotation marks on the outside, so it's looking for a double quotation mark for it to end. Right, so it's smart enough to realize, oh, it's a single quote, so it's a single quote. All right. So what is the main difference between a dictionary and a list?
Key value pairs versus individual.
I mean, yeah, it's key value pairs. I mean, there's a lot of ways to define it. Key value pairs versus individual indices, right? But that's essentially what it comes down to. You can make up whatever indices you want. You can use anything for an index you want. Lists are structured and ordered. Dictionaries have no order is another way to look at it, and that's a perfectly fine answer for that one. Those are 2 questions that came from the textbook. So what about this next question? If L is a list, what does the expression L : -1 do? Yes?
Reverses the list.
So that's super close to the correct answer. It does reverse, but it's not reversing the list. But it's not reversing the list. It's actually doing something very subtly different. Yeah, it's creating a copy of the list in reverse, right? So when you slice something, it creates a new list, right? And the reason I mentioned that is because this is useful behavior, by the way, because oftentimes if you're going through a list, sometimes you want to go through a list and modify the list while you're working on it. And it's important to realize that if you're modifying this over here, you're not modifying the original list. You're modifying the returned, the list. Oh, sorry. This copy of a list. All right. So this one in, so how do I get the last 3 characters of a string? Which is a full method question in 1068's exam, but yes.
Bracket -3 and close bracket.
Bracket -3 will get you. So let me just type that out here. That you're in the right direction and would get. And it may just simply because you're yelling, because you're not yelling, but saying the answer to me, rather than
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. It's string.
Yeah. So let me just configure this over here. Deja vu. Come on. Nodo. There we go. Nodo sans mono is pretty nice. And let's make it a nice big text size so that everybody can see it. Okay, right? So string, right? Remember, it's the right idea. So, I mean, let's be literal about it. The right idea, right? If I do the right idea -3, that gives me, right,
Oh,
right.
-3 semicolon.
Ah, so let's go ahead and try that. -3 semicolon.
Oh no, at the end.
Oh, sorry, at the end? Yes. DEA. Oh, that seems to work pretty well. Yeah, because it's saying, sorry? Yeah, it's a colon right here. Let me go ahead and up yeah, this is why I don't get to keep everything as small as I want it to be on my computer. It's because I need students to be able to read it, right? So -3 colon, right? Can I use a for loop instead? Yes, I could. So I could go s is equal to the right idea. You could use a for loop. I'm really this one is the most this is the most succinct way to get it, possibly the most elegant, but it can be a bit hard to read sometimes. So let's go ahead and say for I in range what? Len s, yeah, len s -3, and then print. I'm just gonna print print. Let's see, s sub I, and then the end is going to be equal to this, so we don't start a new one. Oh.
Yeah, it's supposed to be.
Oh, up to the other range, right? So it's tricky, right? So that's where I begin. So that's what I go up to, right? Not where I begin. So actually so that's where I need to start, and then I need to go up to the end, which is len s. How inconvenient, right? That they have it work in different ways. DEA, yeah. So you can totally do a for loop to do that. Okay. In fact, there are such things though, like you can do. So just another feature, just to show you something that I've come to hate because I have a friend who writes some particularly nasty ones. Right? You can do something called a list comprehension, and if you haven't seen this before, get ready to have your mind blown. Except totally not. It's kind of confusing. So x for x in range 5. So this is called the list comprehension. So it's it's kind of hard to understand until you see what the output is. It gives you a list 0 through 5, right? It's saying a list composed of every element x for x in range 5. So if I go for x squared for x in range 5. So for every value put every value of x squared into a list that's valid for x in range 5, essentially. What about this one? We could do, I could be rather silly about it and go, okay, I want every list to have every one of these to have a list of x for x in range 5. And so now we have a list that has a 0 in it, a list that has a 1 in it, a list that has a 2 in it, a list that has a 3 in it, and a 4 in it. And there's no reason why I can't make this like, you can make this more complicated. So a list that contains x, x plus 1, x plus 2, which is a much more valid reason to have a list, right? So 1, 0, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, right? There's little things you can do, and you can, of course, nest these things as deep and as complicated as you want to, but making things complicated for the sake of making things complicated is not the Python way. It is actually, there are actually unofficial rules for Python. I think the way of Python? Yeah, the Zen of Python, that's what it is, PEP 20. So, which is basically just, these are the principles for coding, essentially. the principles for writing code in general, and I tried to do them. And they're all just aphorisms, right? Beautiful in the context of code is better than ugly. Explicit, doing things by saying them explicitly doing things, is better than implicit. Simple is better than complex. Complex is better than complicated. So it's okay to make something complex if it avoids making it complicated and having to do that. Flat is better than nested, so doing things so it's better to do things in a line rather than having to do them in loops. Sparse code is better than dense code. Readability counts. Special cases aren't special enough to break the rules. Practicality beats purity. So in other words, yes, that's true, but sometimes you have to break that rule. Right?
You have to break the rule that says things aren't special enough to break rules.
Yes. This is practicality breaks purity. So all right. Unless you're Dutch. I'm not really sure what they're going for with that one. So, but these are all basically a bunch of aphorisms. Let's see. And it says Easter egg is from import this. And it gives you, in case you remember, just import this, and it will give you the Zen of Python. There's a lot of other like Zen of programming kind of things where they talk about programming being some kind of Zen Buddhist thing. My favorite one is basically about a manager going to the monk programmer and asking him, okay, so if I ask you, I have this complicated task, how long will it take? And he says, it will take a month for me to do it. Okay, if I hire 2 programmers, how long will it take? Well, then it will take 3 months. And if I hire 10, it will take a year. And if I hire 100, then I'm afraid the project shall never get done, right? The idea is that basically by adding more and more people, a project can get more and more complicated because more and more time is wasted in the overhead of communicating. Yes?
The Dutch thing refers to the creator of Python. Because it's obvious for everybody. Or sorry, it's only obvious to him at first.
Only obvious if, okay, yeah. That makes sense. So, okay. Going back to our exam. So, here's another simple question. What do the /D/W and /S shorthand characters signify in regular expressions? So, yeah, so not digit. So anything that's not a digit. So what are digits? Just to be clear, because that's okay. That would be okay. I'd accept that answer on an exam. But since we're here going over this stuff, I want to make sure we're pretty explicit about this. So what is a digit? What characters consist of digits here? 0 through 9. So these guys, right? Let's see. I think I can go and say like string dot like let's go ahead and make an empty string and go like digits. No, let's go ahead. Oh right, I can't do that. Let's see. String doc Python. And I mean, you can kind of ask, you can actually ask Python what it cares about, right? Right, digits is the string 0 through 9, okay? Which gets complicated sometimes because sometimes hex digits are in the case where that'd be 0 through 9 and A, B, C, D, E, F, right? But digits in this case are assumed to be 0 through 9, okay? So /W, so this one's a bit more complicated. What is /W? You said it was not what? Not word? Not a word. So what are the wordy characters? Right? What is word in the context of a regular expression? So everybody can still read this? Let me go ahead and actually put this. Yep, capital A through Z. Lowercase a through Z, but that's not all. Yep, so the other things are, so it does include the underscore character. What else? Nope. Although good guess. Actually, believe it or not, 0 through 9. I believe we can double check. Let's go ahead and double check the handy regexer though, right? The nice thing about regex is that they're simple enough that you can implement them in a web browser, right? and it doesn't like bludgeon it to death. So let's go ahead and do /W. So as we can see, it pops on the 3 over there. Okay, so /W matches anything that is an A through Z, capital A through Z, an underscore. Let's go ahead and double check that underscore, shall we? It does not do periods or periods, commas, or apostrophes. So, and remember, a slash, not W, gets everything that's not that. So it'll get everything that you want to put in between letters, in between anything that can basically separate stuff. Although it does catch the apostrophe, which could be annoying because the English alphabet does use contractions, right? And it does get a bit weird sometimes, like when we're trying to do like, you know, when you're working again with kana characters, right? So.
So in the statement of compiler, you use the escape key as similar to that, right?
Sorry, similar. The escape. What do you mean? This?
The escape key cannot be when you just came inside the compiler.
I can't hear what you're saying.
First you write a compiler, you go from
Yeah.
string.
Yep.
And use the escape tab.
Import. Sorry. So what I've been doing is I've been doing like right, import RE, right, and then re.compile, and then what I've been doing is I've been using putting an R in front of it, so I don't have to escape anything. If you put the R in front of it, you don't have to escape anything. So I don't have to do /W. I don't have to do //W if I've got the R in front of it. It's a very handy feature called raw strings. So I don't know other programming languages that have it. All right. So other thing we can do. All right. So this one's from the textbook. How would you write a regex that matches a sentence where the first word is either Alice, Bob, or Carol, the second word is either eats, pets, or throws, and the third word is apples, cats, or baseballs, and then the sentence ends with a period. The regex should be case insensitive. So here, for this problem, I don't care about you having to do the regex.compile thing, right? Because I'm not saying write a script. I'm just saying what regex would match, all right? So any volunteers for this one? Sorry?
Yeah, I think I got one.
Okay.
I mean, this is how I solved it. I did a parentheses question mark.
All right, so let's go ahead and do what?
Yeah. So for open parentheses, question mark,
Okay.
colon, open parentheses, question mark, colon, open parentheses, question mark, colon, Alice, end colon.
And parenthesis or end?
Or yeah, end parenthesis, yeah, end parenthesis. Then or. Then open parentheses, question mark, colon, Bob. It's gonna take a while to take all this.
Yeah. So why are you doing all the question mark, the parentheses, question mark, colons? What are those doing for you?
Those right. If I were to just do an open bracket, close bracket with the word Alice in it, it would match anything with those letters.
Right.
Right.
But as opposed,
I just wanted to match the word Alice.
But you could do, say, Alice or Bob or, right? It should be able to do that. So let's go ahead and.
I thought you need the question mark colon.
Let's go ahead and see. Let's go ahead and check that. Yeah, so regex. So let's go ahead and try this. Right? re.compile. Alice. So Alice or, let's go with Alice or Bob, just to check Alice or Bob, right? Okay, regex dot match. And let's go ahead and say, what are we going to...
You could type in Alice and switch the
Mm-hmm. And it matches Alice just fine.
But if you switch the C and the E, will it still match Alice?
Yeah, because I'm just simply capturing. I'm not capturing. It's not in brackets. It's capturing the word Alice or Bob. So by putting it in like this, I can do Alice or Bob or Carol, and then it has to be one of those things, right? So you put parentheses around those. Okay. Right. I mean, does it say that where the first word is either, for a sentence where the first word is either Alice? So, okay. I probably wouldn't have marked that off on an exam. So I'm going to just, but remember, the caret for beginning a sentence. But Alice, Carol, or Bob, because the sentence could be inside of a string, right? One could reasonably argue. So Alice, Carol, and Bob eats or throws or, let's see, pets. Whoops. And then catching nothing there, so let's go ahead and try this again. Each throws and pets, or Bob, so cats, dogs, baseballs. Don't even know if those are the right words, but, and then it ends with a period. So here we need to use a, well, here I need a raw string now because I'm about to do an escape character. Escape period. Oh, right. I don't need the ors between them. I was thinking I need a space. I don't know why I was doing the ors, because I was just doing it on reflex. So, each throws, and now, regex.match Alice eats dogs. Oh, yep. Didn't match because it doesn't have a period, right? Because that's another big thing. We only want to match what we have. Alice eats. So Alice. So, and let's see. Bob pets baseballs. Right? So one of those words, right? So this selection group, right? You can use the or to select one of these things. It's a much easier way to do it. Yes?
How would you deal with the case insensitive part?
To make it case insensitive, pretty straightforward actually. So to put it, we can put it into the compiler, fairly straightforward. To make it case insensitive, we put re.I or re.ignore case. So now here's another one which will be very similar to one of the questions I'll give on the exam, which is write a method that parses a given string and replaces all phone numbers with the string private. Return that string. So let's go ahead and write this over here. New file. Okay. Yeah, let's put it here in the home folder. Why not? So import RE. For these, you can assume import RE is already done, so you don't have to do that yourself. So the first thing we need to do is create the regex. Actually, I need to write a method that does that. So again, since you're in a method, you can assume that's already imported. Let's see. Phone check. And we'll be passed in some string that's text. And in case you want to be safe about importing RE, you can actually import inside of a function. So write a method that parses a given string and replaces all phone numbers with the string private. Okay. So now what do we do with the text? So first we have to create a phone regex. Phone regex is equal to re.compile. All right. And then we've got, what's the regular expression? So we need it's telephone digits, so and U.S. phone digits, so it's going to be a raw string /d/d/d if I want to do 3, or alternatively, the easier way to do that is say exactly 3 digits followed by a dash, followed by exactly 4 digits followed by a dash. No, sorry, 3 digits again in the U.S. phone number, and then exactly 4 digits at the end. 3-3-4, right? Okay, now we want to do phone. Then basically we need to do re.sub. Sorry, no. Phone regex dot sub redacted text. And I'm just going to put this into multiple lines rather than 2 lines. That will give us an output, and we will return the output. It's fun. I'm doing it in a virtual machine. It feels really, you know, hackery almost. So, or less hackery and more industrial, to be honest. So, so now phone, and now I'll test it. Phone check print phone check. This is my, let's go ahead and actually do it in a, remember, a multi-line string. Here are some phone numbers and text. 555-158-2168, and I'm sorry for doxing that. Oh, wait. Got to be 555 for here. Sorry for doxing that movie character. So the 555 over here, you know, that doesn't actually exist in any phone numbers. So 321 555 1234. Some text 111 123-144, and that's probably somebody's phone number, I bet. But let's go ahead and run this. Unexpected end of file while parsing. Oh, right, because I need to match my parentheses. Here's some phone numbers in text. Redacted, some text 111, and redacted. Which is now great because those movie characters can now live on in peace without prank callers calling them. All right, this one can be solved by a by using regular expressions, but it can also be solved by not using regular expressions. In Java, this is one of my this is actually a trick. A lot of students find this to be a tricky problem because they don't know about regular expressions. In Python, we can. So it's called hasWildcat. Given a input string word, return true if word contains the string cat in it, but the middle A can be any character. So kitty returns false because it doesn't have cat in it at all. Tomcat returns true because it has C-A-T, and cat and the leet text catnip with the 4 instead of the A returns true. Okay, so let's go ahead. So does anyone want to tackle this one for the bonus point?
This one or the CSV one?
Well, everybody. I'm gonna try to make sure everybody gets a chance to do this. So, anybody? Yes. So, would you like to tackle this one?
Sure.
Lots of things actually, but don't worry. I will correct you if you do if it does go wrong. So, I'll open it. So I'll open it up in a file over here, and you can type in the answer so everybody can see, because that way it's easiest to. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Yes, you're going to do it in front of the class.
No problem.
Yes, it's tons of fun. But don't worry, the camera can't see you. Right?
I can see you. That's the worst part.
You can. All right. So here you go. So we're gonna call this question. Yeah, we're just gonna do this over here. Yeah. Yeah. So if you need your laptop, you can bring it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can grab it and you can totally bring your answer up with you.
Oh, I never made the answer. I'm doing this on the fly.
Okay. So let me just write def wildcat. Word. Oh, there we go. Here, let me just go ahead and grab this, and I will pop it over here. Okay. So if you want to do regular expressions, you can do regular expressions. So if you're not going to do regular expressions, though, the pitfall that most people fall into this problem is that they forget that basically if you're iterating through letter by letter, it's possible to go off the end when you're checking one letter to the right and then another letter to the right. So so then it just has to contain those three letters.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have
C
to like,
blank T.
Yep. So
let's see.
so you just this one is easy if you don't if you don't overthink it. Then there's a character for any character. You don't need a clean star. You just need
clean star. It's
So C means exactly one C. So the next thing, so that gives you your C. So now you just need anything
I
for
forgot what one character would be though.
Any one character is period.
Period.
Any one character is period. I mean, that won't give you any character though. I did say any character, and that technically does mean new line. I mean, I'd give it to you. I'd argue. So you don't need parentheses,
right?
Because Python's cool. Because all the new programming languages are cool like that. Actually, they say we don't need parentheses for our if statements. Search.
I forget if this.
So search.
Is it that? No, it's read on search.
Well, you've got I already, so you've compiled it, so you can do that.
Oh, I can do that.
I.search word.
Do I have to replace? Do you have to add I again?
No.
Okay.
Because so colon. So if I.search word, turn true, turn false. Let's see. And capital S and capital C's. There we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this, and then let's go ahead and try. First off, doing so we can just try print. RE is not defined. Oh, that's my fault. I didn't go ahead and import RE for you. That's my fault.
No worries.
False. So that's good. That's good there. Let's go ahead and try the catnip one. Or yep. Let's try catnip and that has true. Awesome.
Yay.
All right. So next problem is, suppose you have a file named numbers.csv which contains a bunch of integers, 5 per line of text, separated by commas. And you wanted to do this one? Okay. Write the code below that will open the file, read numbers from it, and then print this of all even numbers in the file. So I don't have a file, so you're just going to have to take my word for it whether or not your answer is right or wrong on this one. So go ahead.
Alrighty, so the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to make a variable called file, and we are going to open that. It's reading files.
CSV.
Yep, .csv. Boom.
Yep.
.csv.
And then you want to give it the.
And then we're
going to read it.
So that's just the R.
Read it. Okay.
And then so now you've got a file.
Now we need to get the lines of the file. So we'll make a variable called file lines. And it equals file dot read lines.
You're struggling because you're so used to using a Japanese keyboard.
Oh yeah, I don't know where anything is.
That's funny.
File dot read lines. And then these. Alrighty. Next, we're going to make our total variable that will hold the answer. I'm going to type in a plus sign every single time. That's a guarantee. Right, now we're going to do a for loop. For line in file lines. Right? X equals line dot split, and we're going to split on the commas
because the line is that separated the values.
All right, and then another for loop for num, the number in the CSV file, in X, right? We're gonna do something crazy. Right? Because not all of these are numbers. Some of them are new lines, right? Or they're empty, or they're just not what we need.
New lines at the end?
Huh? Yeah, it has new lines at the end of each thing.
It does have new lines at the end, but wouldn't the read lines take care of that, or no?
It doesn't take care of that.
Doesn't take care of
It doesn't take care of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a try statement, and we're going to do num equals integer num, right? And this will convert it, whatever is in num, into an integer, right? So they're strings by default. This will make them integers. And then we need to finish this with an except statement, right? Num equals 0.
So what that try catch means is that he's going to try this, and if it gets an error and crashes, it's actually not going to crash. It's going to go into the except block.
So if num is a new line, right, and we convert it into an integer, we get an error. This says, all right,
but
this was a possibility.
You might not get just a new line, right? Because what you might get is actually something along the lines of 42/n, right? Which case you wouldn't catch a 42. You'd have like something like.
Is that a case?
That's where you would get your new lines, wouldn't it?
I'm seeing these.
Because yeah, you have them.
Extra things, but I didn't have anything in those rows from the CSV file.
Yeah, but I'm saying if your CSV file looks like this, right? Each of those would be separated by commas. You generally don't end with a comma, right? If you have 5 items, you have 4, right? So we let's see. So if you're gonna try this one. Right, so try, so you can print it, so you can try by printing this over here in your other one, but there's a easier way to do it to make sure that your new lines don't bother getting, so you don't bother getting caught up in the new lines. If you want me to show you, the easiest way is actually to do file lines. Is to do read, right? Read the whole thing, and then do a dot split over here on the new lines, and that's for sure going to get rid of your new line characters, right? Read the whole thing as a string. Take that string and split up into new lines, and that creates a list of strings, right? And then you can continue on by doing that, and then you don't need the try catch exception anymore. I mean, you can keep it in because it's not going to crash anything. But that way, because the new lines are, because you've got the new, but because the way you've got the new lines over here in your file, I'm not actually sure if read line. Again, read line, you got to double check to make sure that is it going to keep the new lines or is it not going to keep the new lines?
It, when I was making this, it did keep the.
So in that case, then
lines.
if it's keeping the new lines, then this will have it should be 5 new line right over here because that's what it is. It's not how you're right.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, you need to catch that.
Mm-hmm.
So that will work though, and then it will then print out total at the end, right?
Yep.
There you go. Good use of the try catch though, because that will keep it from crashing.
All right.
Good job. All right. So now we've also got one for Excel files. Suppose sheet is a variable representing an Excel worksheet. Let's actually. So I want to just double check with read lines. Right, read lines Python, lead page. Yep, so read lines. Doesn't bother giving me that in that one. Because normally the way I go line by line is I do a for that line. Sorry, for line in file. But, so, it doesn't.
Maybe it doesn't even matter at all, though.
Yeah. You can always strip the new line out if you're worried about the new lines too. But you shouldn't be. It's going to be, it's going to, here, why don't we go ahead and double check by making ourselves a CSV file and actually, reading from it. So, right, so I'm going to go ahead and cat into test.csv, right? And I'll type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, when you convert an integer, right?
Mm-hmm.
With a new, or when you convert a string to an integer and that string has a new line in it, it ignores the new line.
So Python 3. Yep. So let's go ahead and see that Python 3, and I'll have to up the text here. File. So let's go ahead and terminal. Profile preferences. Scroll. Don't use the system font. I want to use Ubuntu Mono is fine, but I'm just going to keep it monospace regular for right now. There we go.
So I did a print
int,
and then string 9 new lines.
Yep, 5 new line. That'll take care of that. So, and now if I do open, so here if I do open test.csv R, and then if I do read lines, it gives me 1, 2, 3, 4 new line. And so you're right, the ints will. So yeah, I didn't know that about that int. It would eat out the new line because it will do that. Java's gets having to teach 2 programming languages at the intro level makes you sometimes just forget what each of the things do. Unfortunately,
I don't think Java would be that friendly.
You'd be surprised at how friendly Java can be. Java can be nice if you're comfortable with it. So let's go on to the next question, which is dealing with. All right. So suppose sheet is a variable. Yes.
Oh, I didn't see. The question asks about only INT numbers.
Oh, only even numbers. So let's go ahead. So even numbers. So, and so now we have to do that over here.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just didn't see it.
No, that's right. We just have to do that over here. I think we skipped that part. If num, yep, mod 2 equals 0. In that case, do this. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. Yeah, totally got some distracted on the new line thing. Okay. Suppose sheet is a variable that, so here we're already assuming that you've got a worksheet, okay? Suppose sheet is a variable representing an Excel worksheet with 3 columns, right? Column A holds the name of people, B holds the date of births, and C we don't care about, right? The dates are stored in month/date format. Write a script that creates a list of people a list that contains all the people born on the first or last day of the year. Does anyone want to tackle this? I can tackle this one if you guys want me to. But the other ones I think are much more appropriate for you guys to tackle. But so let's go ahead, and I haven't installed. Let's see, so let's go ahead and let's see. Oh yeah, PyCharm. So let me boot up PyCharm over here. Okay. So this assumes you already have a sheet, which makes it a bit easier, right? So I'll go ahead and grab basically, let's see, a new line. New exam, Excel. So import, so this assumes that basically you've already done this. Open PyExcel, and then a sheet, WB is equal to open, yeah, so open PyExcel, and then it's load workbook, and then whatever the file name is, foo.csv, right, or something. Right, it doesn't really matter at this point. Right, it doesn't really matter what that file is. It doesn't exist. Then we do wb dot. Then we're assuming you have this sheet. Wb dot. Let's say sheet 1 or some sheet, or you could do dot get act, or we could get the active sheet, which is the one that's opened up on. So we assume that this sheet has 2 columns, right? So we need to be able to get the columns, right? The columns are A, B, C, and D. A, B, and C. Column A has the names. Column B has the dates, right? So essentially, we need to iterate through all of column B and check if the date is the first day of the year or the last day of the year. So, and then if it is, we collect that name into an output. So, yep. So, so let me do the simple tools. So sheet dot, you're saying what column? Don't know why it doesn't give it to me, but what I was going to do was I was going to do for int I in range, right? We start at index 1, and then we do sheet dot max, what was it? Max, yeah, max column. Yeah, max row plus 1, right? How many rows there are. So that will give us the range of those. And then, so, let's say, cell is equal to, so we'll get the cell at sheet B plus str I, right? So this will get it at column 1. Sorry, B1, B2, B3, B4, B5, all the way up to the last one. Yep, it's giving me the object there, and so now I'm going to say the date is equal to cell dot value, and now I'm going to check that if that value that should be a string. I said it's stored in month / day, so you're not going to get a weird time object or something like that. So if date, and here I am putting parentheses myself around there, if date equals and you don't need to do any fancy regular expressions for this. If it's the first day, which it would be 01/01, or date equals 12/31, then output dot append add to a list, right? If you do output dot add in, though, I'll mark off like a point or something. If that output dot append, we don't need the date. What we need is the name. So we do sheet A plus sheet A plus str I. So the corresponding. So here we get the corresponding cell for there. Dot value. That should do, and that should do it, right? This will get the list of people who have their names there. There's probably totally a one-line way to do that using filters and other fancy stuff that we don't need, but this is perfectly fine. All right, so here's the methods. So I like these. These are a lot of practice problems that I've just collected over the years, and I think they're pretty good ones. I've given them out as practice final questions, as practice exam 2 questions, because they're not particularly hard, but they're also, if you know what you're doing, and if you don't know what you're doing, they happen to be good ways of training you. So, all right, method writing, un or un. If the given string begins with un, return a string without the un in front. Otherwise, return the string with un added to the front of it. So un or un for un. So untied will become tied. Unable becomes able, and necessary becomes unnecessary, right? If it starts with un, you strip out the un. If it doesn't have un, you add un to the beginning. It's actually a fairly short function to write. Does anybody want to come up here and write it? Yeah, okay. All right, so let's go ahead. Yep, def un or un. I'm just putting it up for you. There you go, un or un word. Yeah. Oh, you can, if you want to open up Vim, you can. It's fine. Yeah, go. I've got a term. I think, yeah.
Okay.
You preferred Vim, then oh wait, why did it do that? So
It's fine.
oh, already increased the text size. So
Plus, I don't have my
oh, you don't have your key bindings.
yeah. So
Yeah, that's the shame, ain't it?
well, yeah. I guess I could do it. Let's see.
Um,
Def un
yeah,
or
it's not going to do syntax highlighting here
Yeah.
because
I was really looking for that. Is it or un or what?
un. Yeah, you can
Oh, yeah,
go back
un.
to idle if you want to.
It's
So.
it's alright. I'll just do this real
Yeah,
fast.
you need the word. You need the parameter in there.
That's weird. I'll just do it like that. Huh? Ah, that's right.
Yeah, because it's not working. It's not assuming you're in Python. That's
Yeah,
why.
let's
So,
let's go.
yeah, go ahead and put it on back in idle.
Okay. All right. If word dot start. Let's see.
Starts with.
How did see that? I was looking for the autocomplete here.
I'm not sure why it's not doing the autocomplete.
It doesn't know it's words of string. That's why.
Oh, right. That
Yes.
makes sense.
I'll just do this for hacking sake. Word dot. No, it still doesn't know. How would you not know? What's wrong with you, Idle? With un
start.
Or word.
No, just yeah. You can assume just UN. You don't have to assume cases.
Okay.
So that is enough.
Okay. Word starts with line. It was we're supposed to. You said you didn't want us to use.
You don't have to use regular questions, but you can use slices.
Oh, we'll just use slice. Word. Return. Word. Let's see.
Yep.
2. That should be it right there.
Yeah.
Right? Oops.
That should be it to the end.
Okay. Else. Return. Word. Or return.
Is your keyboard Japanese as well?
No. I'm just it's Mac, so it's
Yeah.
slightly different. Plus plus word. Right? That should
That should do it.
it's if starts with actually
Yeah.
returns what I think it returns.
It starts with
That's
should. I
Okay.
think starts. So I think basically, yeah. Let me check. Let me check. Foo is equal to s, right?
Mhm.
Foo dot starts should be. Yeah. Okay. Starts with.
You get off control in.
The control space should do that.
Control
So
space,
let's see if
yeah,
that.
okay.
Let's see if that works right all here. So word. Yeah. Dot. Word. Okay, so again, it doesn't know you, as you mentioned, it doesn't know that it's a word. So if we do that, dot. No, it just doesn't care.
No, it doesn't.
So word is equal to word. See, str.
Will it know? Oh, you got to close space.
Mhm.
Will it know then?
Yeah, that's a good question.
No.
No. I mean, if I do type hinting, does it care? Is that how I do type hinting?
I don't know that it does care. Does it?
Yeah, it doesn't care right now.
Hmm.
It doesn't care. Yeah, code completion in Python is a bit of a.
Yeah, because of the way that types are handled. Right?
Yeah, or at least an idle. That's why I haven't used it for a while.
Autocomplete, even using Jedi on the
Mhm.
Jedi completion on my
Yeah.
template.
So if word, yeah. So another way to do this, by the way, is rather than using starts with, is that if word 0 through 2,
equal.
yeah, equals.
You would have to do the uppercase and lowercase.
Mm-hmm. That's fine. Yeah, I only care about the
Okay.
the lowercase there.
So,
Okay. Okay, so here's another one. Min or max different. Given an array of a list of integers, return the difference between the maximum element and the minimum element. You can assume really one escaped my search. You can assume the list will have 2 or more elements in it. Anyone want to try this one? So this one, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 5 minus 1. Over here you've got 31 minus 15. And then you've got 100 minus negative 100, which gives you 200. So does anybody want to try this one? So you find the minimum and then find the maximum and you subtract them. You return the difference. This one's actually kind of, I think, easy in Python if you know the commands, but even if you don't know the commands, which because I haven't really gone over them, you can always just iterate through, which is the way I expect you to do it actually. So does anybody want to try this one? This one's a fairly straightforward one to do. No? If there's no takers, I'll do it. Okay, so so what we'll do is that we'll set up I'll make the I'm gonna assume that the smallest, if you actually type this out, you notice that min comes up with as a keyword, so I'll just say, so I'm gonna say I'm gonna go small for the smallest, and I'm gonna assume that the first number is the smallest number. I'm also going to assume that the first number is also the biggest number. Right? And at the end, I'm just going to do return, right? What was it? The biggest minus the smallest as the answer. Right? So now I've got to actually go through and actually find the smallest and biggest. So for number in numbers, if number is smaller than, if it's smaller than the smallest, let's call it that. So if the number is smallest than the smallest, then that is now the smallest. And a common mistake I see for people who I can tell are struggling is that they'll just do something like return smallest over here. And that's generally not good if you do that. That shows you don't know how return works, which is kind of important. This generally happens when I have like 60 students, right? And students sometimes just fall through the cracks. So if the number is bigger than the biggest number I've seen so far, then guess what? That number is now the biggest. Return biggest minus the smallest. All right, so that's that. There's also a one-line version for this. Def one-line numbers. Yep. So when you have a list in Python, you can totally find the minimum, like here, by doing this. Like, so min of 3 to 42 1 4. Sorry, well, 5 4 is 1. So throw min into a list, and it'll give you the small. Throw min at a list, and it'll give you the smallest. Your results may vary, though, right? What about this? This is iterable. Well, that's the smallest letter in there, right? Throw in min, and similarly, if I throw min at a bunch of words, hi, there, again is the smallest word. Okay, so the one-line version of this is return max, which does the same thing, of numbers, give you the biggest number out of the numbers, minus the smallest of the numbers. Python is great for doing those one-line things. It's kind of the reason why I also hate Python, hate teaching, throwing beginners in not people who are beginners into this class, because they answer all my questions with one line, and the rest of the students are just like, how are I supposed to know that? And the answer is, you weren't. I was just hoping you were going to still do things the hard way. So swap ends. Given a list of numbers, modify the list such that the first and last elements are swapped. You can assume that there will be more than two. There will be two elements or more in there. So this one, swap ends. Right here we've got these numbers, where basically you notice that, and I always, with these problems, the comments right over here, these tell you what the input-output pairs are going to be. 1 and 5 swapped gives you 5, 1 and 5 here swapped to give you 5 and 1. 15 and 28 swap over here, and then -1 and 100 swap over here. The first elements and last elements swap. Anybody want to try this one who's not answered before? How do you get the last element in Python? -1. And how do you get the first element? 0. So to swap them, we just need a temporary variable. So temp is equal to, what's the last number? Numbers. So we're going to take the last number. We're going to replace it with the first number. And then we're going to replace the first number with the number we swapped out. So this one's fairly straightforward as well. In Python, it's slightly harder because you can't do that. Instead, you have to do something like len. Sorry, in Java, it's slightly harder because you have to do something like len numbers -1 to do that. But in Python, you just get to skip that and just do -1, and it's understood. So this is from a coding bat. So we'll say a value is everywhere in an array if for every pair of adjacent entries, at least one value is that, at least one pair is that value. Return true if that given value is everywhere in the array. So here we have an array, or a list rather. You've got one, and we're checking is one in every single pair. So it's in 1, 2, it's in 2, 1, and it's in 1, 3. So it's in 1, 2, 2, 1, and 1, 3 in every pair, so it's true. 2, on the other hand, for this example, it's in 1, 2, it's in 2, 1, but it's not in 1, 3. 2 is not in 1, 3, so it's not everywhere. And finally, we've got, is 1 in this? Well, it's in 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 3, but it's not in 3, 4, so we return false over here. So let's go ahead and I'm assuming if people didn't want to attack the other one, they don't want to try to tackle this one. Yeah, I won't. Well, I'm just going to do this one. Oh, 1 per. All right, so numbers. So so here we actually have to go through using the indices. So for I in range, because here we care about getting the elements to the left and to the right, which requires us using the indices. So for I in range len of nums, but we don't want to go. So here's the thing, because we're going to be doing, we're getting the value. So we're getting items in a pair, right? We're getting the left value, which is equal to nums at I, and then the value on to the right of that is equal to nums I plus 1, right? Then value to the right is at the +1 index. So because I'm checking +1, that means it's possible for me to go out of bounds. So I want to stop here at len nums -1. That means that basically I's values will be, in this example, 0, 1, and 2, but it won't go up to index 3. 0, 1, and 2, it won't go up to index 3, though. 0, 1, 2, 3, but it won't go up to index 4. Because if I went up to index 3, if I did 3 plus 1, that would give me index 4, which doesn't exist. 3 plus 1 would give me index 4, that doesn't exist. 4 plus 1 would give me index 5, which doesn't exist. So that's why if you're going to the right by 1, you have to make sure you subtract 1 over here.
Do you need a for loop? You can just write like num 0 and num 1 for left and right.
Well, that would only give you 0 and 1. You need the for loop so you can check 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, or however many there are, right?
That's only for the left. For the next this.
Or so do I have to put a 0 here? Is what you're asking? I'm not sure what you're asking. You need to do this with the for loop. Or to iterate, you've got to iterate through it somehow. So we've got our left, we've got our right value. So now we need to make sure that one of those pairs is the value. So if the left equals a val, or the right equals val. So if one of those two are fine, then the whole thing is fine. But if one of them is not that, so if that whole thing is true, so if neither of those work, so if not that, then if neither of those are equal to each other, then we can return false. The other way to do this is to realize that basically if you haven't taken a class where you would have learned De Morgan's law, right? But that's the same thing, but not left or right is the same as saying, so if the value on the left is not equal to if the left side isn't equal to value, and the right side is not equal to a value. See, basically you can use De Morgan's law over there, which is what it's called, which uses knots and can switch Boolean statements around like that, right? Because logically it makes sense. If the left is not the value and the right is not the value, then neither of them are the value that we have, and the thing isn't everywhere, so we can return false. If we get through the entire thing, we can return true. You can do it without De Morgan's law just fine, just by doing it the first way I did it. That was just another, I was showing you there's two ways that are the same way to phrase the problem. So given a string, return the sum of the digits 0 through 9 that appear in the string, ignoring all the other characters. Return 0 if there are no digits in the string. Note that S is digit. Test the string S is one of the characters 0 through 9. Okay? So here we've got AA 1, BC 2, D 3. So that's 1 plus 2 plus 3, so it gives us 6. AA 1, 1, B 3, 3 gives us 8, because all those numbers added together gives us 8, and chocolate returns a delicious 0. So here, don't be surprised if I give you a function you haven't seen before and tell you how to use it like that. Okay, so basically, we need to look at each individual character and just check if that character is a digit or not, and if it is, we add it up. So for a letter in Word, right? For each letter in the word, and then what did it say to do? How did I check? S.isDigit. Oh, so if letter.isDigit, well, that's easy enough. If it's a digit, great. If it's a digit, then I can turn it into an integer. So int letter, right? And now it says I need to sum things up. So count sum. So count, right? Count is equal to 0. This is a running sum. So we do count, yep, plus equals int letter, which is the same as saying count is equal to count plus letter, right? For letter in Word, if letter is digit, count is equal to count plus letter. And then at the end, right, we need to return the count. All right. So there's a copy evens, and then there's one more problem that we want to do for on dictionaries. And I'll have something, and we're going to go over another problem with dictionaries by going over some documents with words. I'm going to teach about some interesting stuff today, hopefully with the Word documents. So, given a list of positive numbers, return a list of length count containing the first even numbers from the original array. The original array will contain at least count even numbers. So here, copy evens, we pass in 3, 2, 4, 5, 8, and 2. We grab 2 and 4 because of those are the first 2 evens out of here. If we pass in a 3 instead, it captures 2, 4, and 8 because those are the first 3 evens, right? And 6, 2, and 1. And so if we pass in 3 here, it grabs 1, 2, and 3. So this is an interesting loop because basically it's not how long it is. We are sure that it's going to have at least as many. We've been assured it at least has count numbers of evens. So we end our for loop when we've hit count, as opposed to when we've hit the end of the loop. So this makes this an indefinite loop rather than a definite loop. You can write it as a for loop, but I'm going to do it as a while loop instead. So on num, so I'm going to create something called evens found, or rather I'm going to use num evens found because I can be so I found 0 evens so far, and then I'm going to create a list of evens, an empty list called evens, which are the even numbers that I'm going to return. So while num evens found is less than the count, right? Well, now I need a way to iterate through that. So I need to grab the 0th item, then the first and the second and third, and right, and so on and so forth. So I need a variable like I to be able to do that. So I'll start at the 0. And then as I iterate through this, I'll do I plus equals, I is equal to I plus 1 to go to the next index, right? So I'm basically manually making a for loop here. So while number even sound is less than count, I'm going to get I'm going to say item is equal to, I'm going to go with actually num is equal to nums I. If num is even, so if num mod 2 equals 0, num, then what we add that number to the evens. Evens dot append num, and then num evens found plus equals 1. You can't do plus plus in Python, believe it or not. It's banned. It's considered harmful. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Give me 1 second. I was going to show you that this URL, by the way, wasn't there for show. You can click on it, and this coding bat has a bunch of practice problems like this. This one was in AP1. So I don't think this one had a version of it for Python, but there were a lot of problems over here as well, where basically you would have Python lists, count evens. This one counts the number of evens in this one, which is an easy version. But there's a lot of these problems over here that, there's a lot of good practice problems on this website, which you can find by clicking the link. Okay, so last question, which involves a dictionary. Okay, given a string, write a function which returns the most common letter in the string. Use a dictionary to do this. Okay, this is a very common problem. Dictionaries are good for doing two things: counting and categorizing. Right? So here we're using a dictionary to count things. What are we counting? The letters. So that's the keys. So the values are then how many times I've seen the letter. Okay? So def count letters. So I'm going to count the letters of this text. How do I get a letter? So we got to create our dictionary. D is equal to a empty dictionary for letter in text. And I'm going to go ahead and just assume that everything is a letter, right? Right? I'm going to go ahead and not assume that there's numbers or something in there. You know what? It's not actually going to matter, right? So for each letter in the text, what am I going to do? I'm going to say, hey, if letter is in our D. So this will check if it's in the keys or the values, but because the keys are all going to be letters and the numbers are all going to be, the values are all going to be numbers, it's safe to do this. Technically, it should be, I think, D.keys. So if we've seen so in other words, it's saying, have we seen this letter yet? If we have, D is equal to D letter is equal to D plus equals 1. And I did this with the Shakespeare problem, I believe, a while ago. Otherwise, if I haven't seen the letter in D.values, sorry, no, ignore all that, else, I don't know what I was doing there. So if I've seen the letter, add 1 to the number of times I've seen it. If I haven't seen it, then I've seen it 1 time now. So let's see how this works. Print count, and then I'd have to find the most common, the most, you know, the one that has the most in that, but I'll get into that in a second. Count letters. So print count letters. Hello there, my name is Mud. Okay. So if I run this, then the dictionary that comes out is this. It says I found 2 H's, 4 E's, right? And so on and so forth. That's stored in D, but sorry, it doesn't store it in D. So right, D. Go ahead and say, let's go ahead and because this is idle, I can do stuff. Now this is one thing I do like about idle. I can do this, print D, run it again, and now I can ask what is D. So then I can go for item in D, print item, which is to remind you how this works, right? If you go through all the items, so now we need to find the one with the most. We need to find which one of these has the most letters, right? So we've counted all the letters. Now we got to find the one that has the most. So for letter in D, we need the most common letter is equal to how do we find the most common letter like that? That does actually create a problem over there. Most common letter, well, we'll just assume that it's A. Okay? Or we'll assume the most common letter is E, which it is, most likely. Right? Or actually, a good way to do that is maybe most common letter is... Yeah, the best way to do this is to have a most common letter and the most common amount is equal to 0. Right? Empty character, 0. Okay? So for letter in D, if D letter is greater than the most common amount, right? The letter we found the most of, then most common letter becomes the letter, and the most common amount becomes the D letter. And then we return most common letter. Which will be E. All right. So we'll apply that in a bit, but for right now, that's the end of the practice exam. So we'll go ahead and take a bit of a break.